Okay, hello and welcome in the next episode of Go Global Eastern Europe, our show dedicated mostly for tech founders, but for everyone who wants to bring more money to our part of the world to attract global clients. And in this series, I interview experts that can share their experience with account-based marketing. If you know my story, I'm a big fan of this because I believe that we need to invest in more quality to approach clients, especially if it's outside our network and especially it's outside our country. So today is Michael Domanski. Story what you do exactly, because on LinkedIn there are many things. So what's the most important for you?
Yeah. Hi, guys. Hi, everyone. My name is Michael, and currently, most of my time, I get stuff done for other people by talking to them about their business, sharing my knowledge, sharing my learnings, what I read, what I do, and then just helping them optimize their business and apply their knowledge to the daily operations. And the second branch of my activity is finding synergies between folks within my close and farther network, and constantly trying to find those new connections, trying to create opportunities for people within my network, even though they are not aware of it. So, considering most of my experience, like in the past, comes from the sales area. And that means my mindset when I talk to anyone is, how can I help those people anyhow? Maybe I can help them with the usage of my knowledge. Maybe I can say a few words and direct them towards a certain solution. But sometimes the answer is the help or the solution they need is the other person I know. And it really makes my day when I can just introduce one to another and see how their cooperation boosts their business, like on each side. Like they get like 1+1 = 3 in this in this case. So yeah, I guess that's it. Just trying to help others to grow their business. I'm not the builder myself. I'd rather be the coach, be the teacher, whatever you may call it. I just want to see people grow professionally, grow their business around me, and see this whole ecosystem being the most appealing and the best version I can imagine.
Okay, so in the nutshell, it's consulting or
Yeah.
not?
And consulting and talking, like
Okay.
sometimes I can do it just for free pro bono because I see a value in it.
Okay, so what's your experience with going abroad from Poland, from some other country from the Central or East Europe, depending on how we classify it?
Most of my experience comes from expanding the sales activities and expanding the companies to the United States. But the first experience was a bit different. It was moving pharmaceutical operations from Ukraine to Poland, but that was years ago. Right now, I'm focusing newly exclusively on the United States market.
So how is it different to connect and to sell to clients in United States where you're located here in Poland and in Ukraine?
Honestly, if you are serious about doing business with United States, you need to be there. Like uh, many people ask me, hey, Michael, where are the online communities I can join? How can I do, I don't know, automatic outreach, maybe some kind of Google Hangouts call and just pitch my solution? And to be frank, there's not so many communities, there are not so many activities of business people on the internet, because most of that business activity of networking, of getting the value or making some striking deals comes from meeting offline, grabbing a cup of coffee, going to drink some beer together. And if you are, as I'm going to reiterate it, if you are serious, you need to be there at least once a while. Otherwise, you're going to be considered as yet another vendor, and you're going to be compared to any other service provider, product provider. There's no difference, and that may come as a shock to some people. But if you are not there and you're trying to pitch something remotely from CE region, you're being considered on the same level as India, as Pakistan, as South America, as any other place, because there's no additional value you may offer to them. And that's kind of funny because in the past, I remember winning some deals with the most expensive offer just because I was able to, pick up the phone, call the guy and ask him to go out for a coffee. And he frankly said, like, hey guys, I went with you just because you were the only ones who would approach me offline.
Okay.
And there's great value in like physical meetings. And even that's a funny story of my first approach to the United States and prospecting there. I had a list of prospects I wanted to reach out to, but no marketing automation, no LinkedIn outreach activity would generate any response from a certain person. Like I really wanted to connect with him. I had this guy in my network on LinkedIn, but he never responded. Like never, nothing. And then once upon a time, I landed in LA. I picked up my LinkedIn and just wrote him a message. Hey, I'm in LA. Do you want to grab a coffee? Immediately. Like it wasn't even a minute. Like when?
Nice.
That's the power of being locally. So that you, first of all, you can grab that coffee. You can stay in touch in their time zone. And it shows you being serious about that cooperation. But also, it makes you learn about the mindset in the States. And that's the real deal for Poles to understand, for people from our region. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's still the case of Poles being like in top 3 of skilled developers worldwide. Yeah,
I don't know the current ranking, but I think I saw something like this. So yeah, it's possible.
Yeah, we are considered to be like at the top of the skill set. On the other hand, our services or our products are not valued so highly as the top of the top.
True.
Why is that? Because for the US market, it's not all about the quality. And we really like to overcomplicate, over-engineer. We like to take pride in our work. So if we take pride in our work, we want to make it perfectly. And for them, it's about generating value as fast as possible. So it can be unscalable. Like that's the whole premise of Y Combinator, doing things that don't scale. And
at the beginning, at least.
Yeah, at the beginning, obviously. We need to, learn that.
True. So how would you prepare? Because I think it's possible to be there sometimes. So how do you organize the trip from the part to have someone to meet? Because to go there, for example, okay, go to New York and in JFK airport, write a few messages. Do you want to grab a coffee? And no one will respond. I think it's not the best idea. So how would you approach this process to arrange some meetings during visit in US?
Yeah, there are a couple of approaches you may take. Like the simplest one is going to some kind of conference. So that's the best approach if you've got nothing to start with. But there's one thing that Polish companies don't really see. And I've talked to quite a lot of software companies willing to expand to the US, and all of them are starting with conferences. But they go there just for the conference itself. So for example, the conference is 3 days. Okay, we're gonna spend 3 days in New York. No, it needs to be like, if the conference lasts, I don't know, 3 days a week, you need to be 2 weeks prior to it and stay 2 weeks after it, so that you may, first of all, capitalize on the connections made during the conference, but you may want to connect with people going to the conference before it, because that's the common ground, something you've got in common with that person already, you can start. So then the conversation starts with, hey man, I see you're doing something really cool and you're gonna be during XYZ conference, but I'm afraid with all the chaos happening out there, we may not be able to see each other, and I really love it because I'm in the States for a month. Would you like to grab a coffee with me like a week prior to? And that's really powerful, and they really appreciate it. And to be honest,
I think to do homework before going for the event.
Yeah.
And after event also, because it's like my strategy to go somewhere and then to post something with actual value, because most social media content after conferences, the photo of the name tag, and okay, it was great to attend this conference, and who cares about this? Strategy is always to create some value, to tag some speakers, to show them that I understand them, that I learn something from them, to add my comment, to show that I'm also like smart person. And yeah, this like a whole different world, and that could be great warm-up strategy also, as you said before conference. And yeah, I always remember, not maybe from business conference, but I went for the conference for digital nomads in Lisbon, and I found I really wanted to talk with Pat Flynn. I wanted to make interview with him, and I did. It was great. And yeah, well, my idea was to I scroll something how to be unique for him, and I found that he created like 500 t-shirts for charity reasons. And I decided, okay, probably I will be the one of few people in Europe with this t-shirt, and probably the only one during this conference. So, when he walked past the queue to entrance, I just showed the t-shirt and he walked by, and we started talking, and we make the deal to record this interview after his speech. 500 people, the audience. He already remembered my name, so he asked about your name because he mentioned Michał Szafrański. And yeah, and he asked from the stage, Thomas, what's how to spell it? So for me, it was, whoa, that guy, I listened to the podcast and I never thought that I will have opportunity to talk with him, and he's looking me from the stage. So yeah, I think conferences and homework, it's like gold way to make this distance much shorter.
Yeah, that's a really nice story about the t-shirt, and I've got the similar one as I've got the baseball cap with the logo of Texas Longhorns. So it's a football team of UT Austin. So whenever I go, I put on my baseball cap, and people start approaching you like, oh man, you're a Longhorns fan. Like, oh, you've been to Texas. Yeah, let's have a chat. That's a perfect opener. And in the States, people are really crazy about their, academic sports. So that's a really nice opener. But there's one additional thing, what not to do during the conference. And the main thing is not to be the salesman. Like, each and every conference is about getting to know people, learning, teaching, and listening. And there's no space for sales. Like, I remember the worst conference, one of the worst conferences I've been to was in California. And it was 3 days of salespeople pitching to other salespeople. So there was no business being done whatsoever. But during the last day of the conference, I was sitting at the bench talking with a guy I just met, and if I remember correctly, it was about scaling the Amazon Web Services, so servers. Just basic IT talk without any context, without any ask or sales pitch. And there's this guy approaching us, standing next to the bench, listening. For a while, he just stood there. And after a while, he approached us and was like, hey guys, can I join you? Because you're the first people I hear in those 3 days that are not selling something. Can I just have a discussion with you? And well, long story short, that's one of my most valuable connections to the US market right now. And I can't say anymore, but the amount of value we generated by not selling and not pitching is enormous. Conferences seem to be a bit en masse for a lot of people. They may be overwhelming, especially when you are not fluent in networking, which, by the way, shouldn't be speed dating. It should be having a discussion. You may have an approach of account-based marketing, like as you love it. And there was a case of me expanding to Texas startup ecosystem. And we realized with a friend of mine that in Austin, every day is a startup meetup day. Like you could have a meetup about everything any day of the week. It's huge.
So yeah, maybe it's Texas, because I heard that I saw many people moved from California to Texas, for example, because they're like tax friendly or something. I don't know if you know something about this.
Yeah, absolutely. To be honest, not so many Texans enjoy California people in there, but there's a lot of everyone migrating to Texas. And my favorite saying when I was meeting someone was, how long have you been to Austin? Because it's like a new startup hub.
Okay.
Like historically, Austin in Texas was a really small city. It was so nowadays it's hard to find someone who's born and raised in Austin. And even though the Austin itself will not compete with Silicon Valley, a larger initiative which connects main Texan cities, namely Houston, Dallas, Austin, and San Antonio, to create a huge statewide startup ecosystem. So that's a really nice idea with the hubs specialized in certain industries depending on the city.
Oh, as you mentioned that it's good place for startup events. Many things going on there.
Yeah, it's the number of those events is enormous, and you can really feel everyone wanting to create something. So maybe that's the early vibe of Silicon Valley. But when I was expanding to the US with a friend of mine, we realized most of those events are aimed at founders, maybe more towards non-technical founders, CEOs, fundraising people, and there's not so many events aimed at technical people. And those guys, namely CTOs, for example, or engineering leaders, whatever you call them, their issues, their talking points, their pains are a bit different from those CEOs want to talk about. So we did some homework of our own, and we created a list of, I don't remember the exact number, of ex-CTOs from Austin we would like to talk to. And then we organized a private dinner just for those CTOs. It was like, if I remember correctly, 12 people dinner in a fancy restaurant with custom invitations, aimed at discussing only their problems, only their mindset, and everything circling around technology. And we sent out the invites, created the Eventbrite event as well, just to take a step outside of our bubble. But in the end, it was like 50% of our network, like further network and people we had some connection previously, and 50% of completely new folks we have never met. we were really stressed about it. But the funny thing is that, first of all, we created a gift bag for each and every one of the participants, filled with Polish themed gifts. So we found the Polish store, like a CE store, basically Polish, Ukrainian, Czech store, filled our gift bags with kielbasa, with pickles, with herrings, chocolates, ptasie mleczko, all of that weird stuff, obviously vodka and some non-alcoholic beer, and handed out to the people. We were a bit on the fence because it seemed to be a bit cheeky or maybe stereotypical, but for them it was absolutely amazing. But what's more, I think, is that we had the whole agenda prepared. We were thinking, okay, how can we fill the whole evening with content, with meaningful conversations? How can we facilitate that meeting so that it doesn't feel weird, so that we can engage those mostly introvert people, because like technically CTOs are, well, by statistics, more introvert than extrovert. And it turned out that really wasn't the case, because as the first point of agenda was just, hey, present yourself, like tell us what you do and what's your biggest pain point right now. It turned out they really needed the space to vent. And as we were having like follow-up discussions with like 100% 10 out of 10 NPS, and the common consensus was that, hey guys, I really needed to vent. I really needed to find out that I'm not alone and there are some solutions to my issues and there are some people who understand me. And that's a kind of funniest thing, considering like founders' loneliness or people not understanding the CEO and CEO looking out for other CEOs to talk and connect, and the masterminds group and so on. That's well known. But for technical people who are not like so extrovert, who are not into using social media, who are not into going to public events, there was no space for them to share. And we created that space, which just exploded and made people realize, hey, those guys, even though they're not technical, they understand our needs, and they are here not to sell anything. They are here not to push their services or anything. They were there just to facilitate our knowledge sharing session. And that's powerful, man.
Also interested how you started with inviting them, because it's like little tricky how to, because it's always that reason that, okay, please come to the meeting, but would be anyone else there? Because as you mentioned that half of that people were from your network, yes? So you have this base already. And
yes,
rest
because
you use like cold outreach, just LinkedIn, and hey, that will be meeting, and already 6 people we have, or something else?
We used both LinkedIn and Eventbrite. So that was the case of our cold outreach. Yeah, we were using people from our own network as well. We had some champions of our own, and that's really nice to have, like to have 1 or 2 big names or big brands you can, position yourself next to. So since it wasn't our first time to Austin, we had some connections already made. We had some CTOs with successful products, and we simply asked them like, hey man, would you like to come to a really exclusive, fancy dinner, have a chat with us? You remember we had a blast last time we grabbed a beer or something. And basically that was it. And then following up, hey, if you know someone who would like to come or who would benefit from this meeting, let us know, introduce. It simply went like that. And yes, some of the cold outreach, because we had some like prospects we wanted to contact with, and we managed to simply with the same message, hey guys, we are creating this exclusive event. Those people who are coming, there's gonna be, you know, free food, free alcohol, some gifts, and quite a few CTOs of other companies. And then, if I remember correctly, yes, it was Eventbrite and some of the sharing within the Capital Factory Slack network, which is the accelerator / co-working space for startups in Austin, Texas, basically, because they've got a couple of offices.
Nice.
And that was enough, surprisingly enough, even though that was the first time event with no strong brand locally and with a great competition of other events. Well, the demand for the spots was huge, and everyone wanted us to create more events like that.
Okay.
But you got to know, you know, first of all, you need to be there and you need to spend some money, spend some time, and really curate this kind of events. So it doesn't say, hey, we're having event just as a marketing funnel, but we are creating the event for you to have a space to open up and for you to generate and have some value out of it.
Tell me, did you have any business goals from this event? As you mentioned, it wasn't salesy at all. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think that it was no charity to feed people in Austin, but you have some business idea behind it. And did it work? Okay.
For some people, like for those from the cold outreach, I'd say like 3 of those people where they just came, had a dinner, and never heard from us again. Like we never heard from them, and they didn't really want to follow up. And the rest, we still keep in touch with most of them. Was some business for our then business, and right now I don't have any particular ask of them, but still we're in contact and we're sharing recommendations and they recommend us to other people. So that's the reciprocity rule of Robert Cialdini. So that, you know, you give something and they feel it's nice to give something back. And then I start giving something back once again. And that's like a ping pong of just, you know, nice gestures being done.
Nice. Yeah, it's great case study and great inspiration. Biggest example what I share and I was admire, it was about like NetGuru organized a New York fintech meeting or conference. For me it was wow. But as NetGuru is like having budget that it's over most of the possibilities of companies like software development companies. But your example is showing that yeah, it's possible to be present in the market, and I think with the budget, because organizing fancy restaurant in Austin, it's also some budget and to go there and to organize everything. But I think it's more easier achievable, and yeah, super interesting story.
To be honest, it wasn't so expensive as I anticipated.
Okay.
For you know, private room with, you know, private service and whatever you like to eat, whatever you like to drink, I believe the cost was around $100 per person. So it was
okay.
cheap, you know, economies of scale, basically.
Yeah. I estimated around 3K, something like this. So it's pretty good deal. Okay, great for sharing this. And as we are coming to the close, my question about this hot topic, and I also observed that you are close to the AI topics. So how do you think how AI will influence in the next year B2B marketing, B2B sales, because sales is like closer to you, or still in B2B like high ticket sales, as you mentioned from examples? It may be make little easier, but it's still human to human connection, and even AI will write super fancy first line that wouldn't change so much. It's still be needed to follow up, to organize the meeting, to organize dinner, to research, to make a strategy. What do you think about this?
On one hand, I believe it will automate and make low value deals easier. It surely will help with setting up all the campaigns or all the
Mm-hmm.
activities. But in the end, high value tickets are gonna be relation based.
Mm-hmm.
But there's one really important thing to bear in mind, that not all high value tickets will be relationship based. Because I can imagine, for example, you've got an AI product
Mm-hmm.
that's being built on, you tell the AI, hey, build me a product X and find me the most cost efficient server. And okay, it's checking the parameters and think, okay, I'm gonna go with Azure or another server provider. I still believe relations will override the 0 to 1 mathematical
Mm-hmm.
value calculation. So I'm not really afraid that it's gonna take any work away. It's gonna make work more efficient, and it will allow us to focus on what's most important, and that is talking, learning, and being interested in other person. Because as I mentioned before, I believe networking is not about speed dating and pitching and just finding that personal client. It's about getting friendly with those people, befriending them, getting fascinating about them, really wanting to listen to them, being and solving their issues. There's no ask, there's no immediate gain. It's a long run game, which makes you a lot of friends in the process.
Mm-hmm. Great, great. Thank you so much. And yeah, all your details, your website and the LinkedIn profile and any link you want will be below this video. So do you have any words at the end you want to share?
I just want to say thank you for inviting me over. And the only thing I would like to leave everyone with is that remember, networking and getting to know people is not the speed dating. It's about getting friendly and skip the small talk about passion, talk about issues, get the real talk immediately. And that's going to open up a lot of doors for you.
Great. Thank you. Thanks again.
Thank you.